Well, good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you. If I haven't met you before, my name is Sawyer and I'm our associate pastor here at Rise Church Denver. Welcome to those here in person and those online. My wife and kids are kind of getting over being sick, so if you're watching this service, girls, listen to your mom, okay? Appreciate you. Hey, if I have a platform, I'll take it, absolutely. Today we're continuing with our Change series. We had two great guest speakers over the last 2 weeks, and today we'll be diving into one of the most famous verses in the Bible. It's probably a verse that you're familiar with, but do we actually put it into practice? But to start us off tonight, not tonight. Sorry, I'm used to teaching at Turbulence, I think, and it's tonight. But it's an exciting time of the year. It's graduation season. The summer is right around the corner. Definitely feels like it today. It's a beautiful day. And I'm looking forward to summer because of camping. How many of you are campers out there? Enjoy camping? Man, we get spoiled living in Colorado to have amazing places to camp, like 30 minutes, an hour away, and you can show up and be totally in the mountains. And as much as I like camping during the day, one of the true joys of my life is looking up at the sky when you're camping. I wish I could say that I was a better photographer and I took this picture. Not true, but there is a beautiful picture behind me of what the sky looks like. And it's crazy when you get out of the city, when you get out of light pollution, and you can just look up at the sky and truly realize how numerous and just full the sky is, full of stars. When you can see the galaxy, the Milky Way up in the sky, and you just realize, man, the universe is huge. And you just truly see the amount of light that it gives off. When the moon isn't covered by clouds, when you don't have city lights and car lights and everything, and you just stop and you just look up and you're just like, whoa. And that's what we're gonna be talking about today, this idea of light. That when it's in the right situation, when our eyes are open, that light truly shines. And this idea of light is a metaphor that is used all throughout the Bible. It's used to describe God himself. It's used to describe God's presence. And we'll see in our passage today, it's also used to describe us. It's to describe our faith. So if you're a follower of Jesus, this message specifically is for you. It's to challenge all of us to shine more brightly. And if you're not, or if you're still trying to figure out this God thing, or somebody dragged you here by an invite and you're like, well, I don't even know what's happening, just sit back, relax, and hold us accountable. Make sure that our light is shining bright. Well, with all of that, if you want to follow along, we're on the YouVersion Bible app. That's the brown Bible app. Under there, if you click the More button, bottom right-hand corner, and click Events, all the sermon notes are under there, or the scriptures will be up on the screen behind me as well. So we'll be diving into Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, his most popular message, and something that many of us are familiar with. A lot of the passages that we know, the words of Jesus, are in this section. And we're gonna jump in, Matthew 5, starting in verse 14. These are the words of Jesus. He says this, he says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. You are the light of the world." So not only is God light, not only is God's presence light, but that we, as followers of Jesus, are the light of the world. Now, not physically, obviously. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have the stars, but we have an impact to make. This idea of light as used as a metaphor throughout the Bible to describe the impact that our faith is supposed to have, both on us, but also the environments that we are in. And as people living in Denver or in the surrounding areas, we don't often think about it, but that Denver is a mile high. So we're not only just a city on a hill, we're a city built on a mountain. But in this first century context, when Jesus was preaching these words for the first time, when he gathers those group of followers around him, and they're he climbs up onto this mountain. Basically, he's a little bit higher than them, kind of like I am right now, so you have a natural projection to your voice. And he says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." And this would have made sense to their minds because cities or even large towns at that time would have been built up on a hill for two main reasons. The first being is that it was more easily defendable. That a city obviously had within it a lot of people, a lot of wealth, a lot of goods, a lot of things to be traded. And they would basically find a spot that was a hill, build a wall around it, put guards in front of it, and make sure that the only people that they wanted to get in were in. And if they were attacked, they had the natural high ground. They could see the enemy coming upon them. They could shoot down at them or whatever. But I don't think that's what Jesus is getting at. I think it's the second thing. Because cities were also built on a hill, not just to be defendable, but to be visible. To be visible. Now, Israel is a pretty relatively flat place. It does have a lot of hills and desert, but Jerusalem itself was a city built on a hill. And it was visible for miles before you actually came upon it. And this was a good thing. If you're trying to build a city or a town, you want people to come to it because you want to make money. You want people to come in and spend their money, to trade, to spend time there so that you can become rich. And so cities were built on a hill so that people would be able to see them from long distances and say, hey, I want to go there. And I think that's what Jesus is getting at in this section. He says that his followers are to be the light of the world, that their light should be visible just in the way that a city is visible from miles away. And this brings us to our first idea, that your light should be seen. Your light should be seen. And maybe to some of you, you're like, yeah, of course, duh. If I'm a follower of Jesus, that this is really the most important thing about me, then yes, I gotta shine my light. I gotta keep on shining. I gotta make sure that people know that I'm a follower of Jesus. Know the things that I hold to. Know the beliefs that I have. Know the things that shape my life the most. And if that's you in the room, then awesome, keep on shining. But for many of us, maybe when we hear that, we're like, my light should be seen. Well, Sawyer, you don't know the environments that I'm in. You don't know how people feel about my faith, or how my workplace feels about faith, or how my school talks about faith. I don't know if my light could be seen, because if I shine my light, then that might mean a loss in my reputation, a loss in my friends, maybe challenges in my workplace and my job, how I feed my family. And if that's you, then I encourage you to keep on shining. Just like a city on a hill is visible for miles, our faith, our light, our relationship with the God of the universe should be visible in our lives. When people think about you, they shouldn't just think that you're a nice person, or that you're good at your job, or that you're athletic, or whatever it is. They should associate you with God, with Jesus, with your faith. And so this morning, I think that the question that we have to ask ourselves is this: how is your light? How is your light? Is it like a little candle flickering in the wind, just trying to hold on and survive as the winds of the world just blow against it? Is it a bright, shining flashlight? They make flashlights today. I don't know if you've seen these online. It's a crazy video to look it up later. But there are flashlights that literally make it look like the daytime when it's like pitch black night. And if you look directly at it, you can literally blind yourself. It's crazy. Look it up. It blows your mind. But is your light like that? Do people know that you are a follower of Jesus? Do they see your light shining from the distance? Is it visible in how you care for your kids? Is it visible with how you interact with your neighbors? Is it visible in how you do your job, in the choices you make, in the things you decide to do or not do, how you spend your free time, by what you post online even? Is it visible that you follow Jesus? How's your light? Can people see it? Have you ever had something in your life that is just like right out of grasp? You're like, we're so close to it, and if we just made these couple decisions or changed a couple things, that we'd be able to grab onto it. For me right now in my life and my life at home, it is trying to get both the girls to sleep through the night. If you don't know, we have two beautiful girls, Lucy and Sophie. Lucy will be 5 in August. Sophie will be 2 in September. And so we're like right on the cusp. Like there's some beautiful, glorious nights where it just happens by accident. Like Lucy won't wake up in the middle of the night and accidentally wake up her sister and check on her, and then they're both awake. Or Sophie will actually decide to keep her passy in her mouth the whole night, or it can self-soothe, and then we wake up and it's like, oh my gosh, it's morning. It happened. And let me tell you, when I walk into work, I'm like, I can do anything. I'm well rested. But if you have kids, or if you're a parent, or if you interact with kids at all, you know that there's a flip side to that as well. That there's a lot of nights where it does not work at all. And that was a couple days ago this week. And what happened was Lucy had a bad dream, and so she is yelling at the top of her lungs, which of course wakes up Sophie. And now Sophie is crying and upset, and Sarah's comforting her and rocking her and giving her some milk. And I'm with Lucy. I'm just trying to calm her down. And we've set a goal. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to hold on to it forever, but we set a goal to try not to let the kids sleep in our bed. And I had a couple parents after first service, they were like, good luck. So we're holding on. And so I'm in there in Lucy's twin bed, trying to cuddle her and calm her down. And I don't know how she does it. As a 4.5-year-old little girl in this twin bed, she has taken up most of it. I don't know how she does it. Like, the geometry just doesn't make sense. And her bed is up against the wall, so I'm plastered up against the wall, trying to hold on to her as I'm like getting hit in the face as she like starfishes out. And I just want to fall back asleep. I'm like, man, maybe I can get a few minutes of sleep trying to calm her back down, and then I'll wake up inevitably when she hits me in the face, and then I can go back to bed, right? And she'll be fine. And some of you out there are very sensitive to sound when you're sleeping. I'm very sensitive to light. And what happens is when Lucy has a bad dream or when she wakes up, she gets scared, right? And so she wants to crank her nightlight all the way up. It's one of the ones that's on like a dimmer switch. So right when I came in, after she calms down a little bit, she's like, Dad, can you turn up my nightlight? I'm like, okay. So I turn it up, and then I'm laying there wide awake because I cannot fall asleep when there's light in the room. Like, we have these extra dark curtains in our bedroom, and that allows me to sleep. I was talking with Gary Lidholm, who was just up in Alaska, where it's bright throughout the whole night. That is like my worst nightmare. I couldn't do it. I'd be up for like weeks at a time. And so I'm laying there thinking about, man, how can she sleep when it is literally daytime in her room? And I think that's exactly where Jesus goes next in our passage. He talks about light being a city on a hill, being visible from a distance, but then he also talks about how it's supposed to impact our immediate area, the people around us. In verse 15, he says this, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Now, Jesus obviously is not talking about an electric lamp. He's not talking about a light switch. Electricity wasn't around yet. What Jesus was talking about would have been an oil lamp, and there's a picture of one behind me. And this is basically just like a dedicated candle that they would have used to light up their homes at night. And there would have, in that hole there, they would have put oil in it, and then there would have been a wick coming out, and slowly over time, the oil would burn, and that would create light for their houses. And so what Jesus is talking about would have been completely ridiculous to his original audience. Because it's not like you're putting a bowl over like a lamp that you have at home where it would still shine through the shade. No, these aren't giving off a lot of light. And so you put a bowl over it, it would immediately become dark. There wouldn't be any light that would come through. But even more than that, this would have been a flame, and if you cover it up, it removes oxygen. Eventually it would go out. And so Jesus' statement, as silly as it might be to us, would have been completely like ridiculous to his first listeners. Because the whole point of lighting a lamp was to light up their house. They would hang it or have a stand, which Jesus talks about, in the corner of their house that would lift it up higher, that would illuminate their home. And so Jesus' first metaphor, this idea of a city on a hill, shows that our light should be visible from a distance, but that's not good enough. It's not just be that people should know that we're a follower of Jesus from far away and then not interact with us. No, it should make a difference in the people around us. Just like this smaller light lights up the entire home and makes an impact on the people around us, our light should do the same. So our light should be seen, but it should also shape those around us. It should be seen from a distance, but it should make an impact. It should show itself. It should encourage. It should support. It should love, especially the people around us. And so, yes, of course, just as Jesus says, a lamp lights up the house, this should be totally evident in those that we share our lives with our families, with those that we actually live in the same house under, with our spouse, with our kids, with your parents. Is the way that you follow Jesus impacting the people around you? But not just people that you share the same roof with, but those that you do life with as well. Your next door neighbors, the people that are on your kids' sports teams, Kids, your classmates, your teachers, those that are on your sports teams, those who are on the same clubs as you. And yes, your coworkers. If you think about it, if you're working 40 hours a week, you are spending a lot of time with the people that you work with. And if they don't even know that you are a follower of Jesus, if you have this hidden side of yourself, which should be the most important part of your life, and they don't even know that, then friends, you are missing out. They are missing out. God might have put you uniquely in that job, not just because it's a great job, not just because it pays your bills, but to impact and shape the lives of the people around you. Because I don't have to tell you this, life is hard. It's difficult. Pain comes, problems come. Kids don't turn out the way you think they should. Marriages fall apart. People die. You're like, wow, what an uplifting message. But the point of it is this, is that just like you and I go through that and put our hope in God, if we're a follower of Jesus, we know this is not the end. We know that God is still working. Can you imagine going through all of those things without any hope? Wondering if life is actually going to get better. And so friends, we have been put in the families, the communities, the workplaces, the neighborhoods to shine our light and shape the people around us. To pray for those that are struggling around us, to meet needs, to support them. If somebody can't put food on their table, if they're struggling financially and you have the means to do it, help them. Don't just lift them up to God in prayer. Be an example of what God is like through your love, through your care. And if that sounds daunting, let me tell you, it is. It is. It is so much easier for us and for me to turn inward, to get focused on ourselves and get focused on our families and our kids and our relationships and our relationship with God and our job. It is so much easier to keep the focus on ourselves, but that is not what we are called to do. We have been loved and given more than we can even fathom. God has given us his very son. How can we not go out and love people the same way? You might be saying, well, how do we do that? It's a great question. And I love that Jesus never leaves us hanging because he tells us how to do it in the next verse. Verse 16 says this. In the same way, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds and they may glorify your Father in heaven. You see, we do this by how we live our lives. We do this by the choices that we make to step out of our comfort zone, to remove the focus from ourselves and show genuine love, care, encouragement, support, give a shoulder to cry on, not just giving answers, but giving genuine love and care like we have been loved. If God gave his life for us, how can we not go out and do the same for the people in our lives? And I think this idea of light gives us a clue of what these good deeds look like. Because what does light do? I think especially in our homes, it provides three things. First off, it gives us comfort. As we get older, we realize that the darkness isn't that scary, that there's not really monsters under our bed, but it still feels a lot better to have some lights on in our houses, right? What if our light was a comfort to the people around us? What if our faith wasn't something that we needed to feel like we needed to hide or be ashamed of? But we can say, hey, this is a source of joy for me. When I've gone through a struggle, like maybe what you're going through, my faith has been a support for me. Hey, I know you're wrestling with this, and one of the things that encourages me is this Bible verse. I think if we frame it in that way, not like saying you need this, but this has helped me, and maybe it'll help you too, that people are open to that. If you tell your story, if you say, hey, this is the way that God has worked in my life, he's been a comfort and a joy to me in good times and bad, and I want that for you. What if instead of pushing people down, we invite them up to the best way of living in Jesus? Our light can be a comfort. And our light is also a warmth. Now, many of us have heaters at our homes. We don't need them right now, but when it is cold out, we flip on the heater and we're good to go, right? But in a first century context, they wouldn't have had that. They would have had to light a fire every night if they wanted to stay warm. What if the same could be said of our faith? Instead of something that we hide away or that we feel maybe ashamed of or like we can't bring into the rest of our life, we saw it as a warmth to the people around us, to provide the joy and hope and purpose found in Jesus. And lastly, what if your light was a guide? I'll tell you what, I know the layout of my house pretty well. But if I don't take a look at the floor before I go to sleep on the main floor and evaluate where the specific toys have gotten left, I'm gonna step on them. If I don't turn the lights on or make sure that I have it in my mind that, oh, here's something there, and it always happens inevitably because I don't have my glasses on, and that already makes it way worse. And then the lights are off, and then inevitably, what did we find? A Lego. Right there in the foot. I need to turn the light on. I need a guide to just take the step in front of me. And what if the same could be said of our lights? What if people go through the questions, the difficulties, the challenges of life, if our light could help light their way and point them to the best way of living, as Jesus would say, the fullest life found in him alone? We need that. We need God to be on the horizon, guiding us, directing us, helping us make the right choices and decisions to follow him, right? Imagine not having that. Not to say that people that don't know Jesus can't live good lives, but we've been put specifically in relationship with them, in the people in our lives, to help be that light, be that guide. Not to point people to ourselves, not to say that we're better than them or we've got it more together than them, but to just say, hey, this has made an impact on my life and I know it would make an impact on yours. I know it. And so our light should be seen, it should shape the people around us, and lastly, it should seek and serve. That's why we're all about seeking the one here at Arise. We don't just seek God, we don't just wait for heaven one day when we get to go be with God. No, we have a mission right now. If you are a follower of Jesus, your job is to glorify God so much in the way that you live your life that the people around you can't help but notice. To love them in the ways that you have been loved. And how do we do that? Through service. Jesus would say of himself that the Son of Man came to serve, came to seek and to save the lost. So if Jesus did that for you and for me, how can we not respond by doing that to the people around us? Our life should be filled with good deeds that encourage the people around us to glorify our Father in heaven. But I think we often fall into two different misconceptions when it comes to this. We read a verse like this and it says, let your light shine before others that they may see your good deeds. And you're like, great, I don't have to use my words. If I live a life that's just on fire for God, if I'm a great person, if I love and I care, then I never have to talk about my faith because that gets messy. We find quotes like this from Francis of Assisi who said this. He said, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words. And you're like, yes. That's not the case. First off, Francis of Assisi never said this. They think it's attributed to him because of a 1221 basically rule book that he wrote for the Franciscan monks, making sure that their actions and deeds matched their preaching. Not that they weren't to be out there preaching, but basically that they wanted to make sure that the words that they said matched the life that they were living. The same should be true of us. In order to glorify our Father in heaven, they have to know why we're doing the things that we do. Yes, live a good life, be a good person, love and care and show amazing, awesome. Go out of your way to care for the people around you. But tell people why you're doing it. It'll be evident, but tell people why you're doing it. Preach the gospel at all times, and it's necessary to use words. I'd maybe flip it that way. If God has really impacted your life that much, that you're going to want to talk about it. If something truly is important in your life, you almost can't help but talk about it. Think about it. Maybe you're into sports and you know every sports statistic that there ever was and ever will be. And you can just break them out like that. I have a good friend that's like this. He can tell you everything there is to know about sports ever, at least it seems that way. That's important to him, so he talks about it. Maybe for you, I feel like people are like this about cars. I'm just like, as long as it gets me from A to B, that's good. But some people like listen to a car coming down the road and they'll be like, let me tell you all about that engine just based on the sound. Blows my mind, it's crazy. They want to talk about it. Maybe you're like my wife and you're big into true crime podcasts. And if that's you, good for you, but it's not for me. It just stresses me out because they're talking about really horrible stuff. And I'm like, how do you listen to that? She's like, I just like the mystery, the intrigue. And I do my best to listen, but I'll tell you what, it's not for me. But it's important to her, so I try my best, right? Whatever is important to you is gonna be easy to talk about. It just flows out of you. It just happens. If you care about something, whatever it is, you're just gonna talk about it. The same should be true about our faith. So yes, use your words. But maybe on the other side, the other misconception is that we feel like we have to defend all of our beliefs. Like we have to put the full mantle of Christianity on our shoulders, and if people aren't living the ways that God has called them to live, we gotta let them know about it. We gotta make sure that where people know our stance on every single subject, every single topic, every single lifestyle, whatever it is. But please don't hear me wrong, the ways of God are truly the best. If God designed the world, if God is the creator of all that exists, then he gets to set the best way to live. But we can't hold people accountable to a standard of a God that they don't even believe in. That would be like going to another country and punishing someone because they broke a law in the US. We go up to Switzerland and say, sorry, Swiss person, you broke this US law, so we gotta punish you. That would be like going over to your neighbor's house and disciplining their kids because they broke one of your rules at your house, right? It doesn't make sense. So yes, hold on to the standards that God calls us to live. Live them out in your life. Be a beautiful example of the great life that God has for you, the fullest life, the best way to live. But don't use your light as a floodlight to convict them of every single piece of darkness in their life. Don't use your life as a police flashlight, interrogating them, holding them accountable to a standard of a God they don't even know. None of us really came to faith that way, right? If we're a follower of Jesus, it's because somebody modeled it for us, like our parents or like our friends, like somebody else in our lives, that it was so invitational we couldn't help but believe. Or somebody invited us to church or showed us what it looked like to follow Jesus. That's how we came to know Jesus. We weren't shamed into following Jesus. Maybe you were for a while. Maybe you felt like you had to go to church. Your parents forced you to go to church or whatever it is. But true relationship with Jesus isn't found in shame. It's found in joy. It's found in hope. It's found in purpose. So don't fall into the trap of thinking you can change people. You can't. Much as you might like to, much as you think you should, and maybe sometimes you should, but you can't. We can't change people. Only God can. So yes, go out of your way to love and care for that person. Invite them to church. Invite them to youth group. Invite them to events that we have here in the church. Show them what it looks like to live the best life in God, but you can't change them. There might come a point when they know what you believe. They know what you believe about certain things or believe about God. And if they know that, and they know that that you love and care for them, that might be all you can do. Keep praying. God is working. God is active. But we cannot forget the words of Peter that he would write in 1 Peter 3:15. He says, yes, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you of the reason for the hope that you have. Be prepared to tell people about Jesus. You gotta use some words. You gotta live it out with your life. But the second part, do this with gentleness and respect. Gentleness and respect. Your light can make a difference. People should see your light from a distance. It should shape those around you closest. It should seek out those that are far from God and serve them passionately with the love that God has shown for us. And if you do that, you will make a difference. It's one of my true joys as a pastor. I get to hear about the difference that you are making in the lives of the people around you. I get to hear about how people were far from God, that their life was falling apart, and I get to see them on the road to restoration, being transformed from death to life because of your invitation. I get to hear about and experience the hurt and the pain and the joy and the celebration that are shared in community groups week after week as people do life together. But maybe you're sitting there and you're like, man, this world is a really dark place. How could my light make a difference in a world that is so dark, that is so hurting, that is filled with loneliness and pain and problems, stuff that I can't even comprehend or imagine? And I would say that at one level, you're right. The world is a dark place. But I would say that your light can make a difference. This light does not make a difference in this room with all the lights on, right? None of you are like being blinded or you all can see. But this is not how our world is like. Our world is dark. And now it makes a lot more of a difference. In fact, it does enough light for me to light up the first couple rows and see your faces. And if we were to actually make this room totally dark, if we were to cover every window, close every shade, turn off the backlights, turn off the TV, turn off the projector, this light would be bright. So just like the stars that shine aren't as evident when we're in the light of the city, but when we go camping and we can see the light shining, we can see the sky lit up with stars. What if the same could be said of our light? That when people looked out at the world, they saw a sky full of stars, of people on fire, lighting up their lights for Jesus, showing this is what it looks like to follow Jesus. So even your small light can shine bright in the darkness. It's what you're called to do. It's why we're still here. For the people around us to experience the fullness of life found in Jesus alone. So how's your light? How's your light? But maybe today you're just trying to make it through. You got a lot of darkness in your life. You came here today looking for some hope, looking for some brightness. Friends, let me tell you, if that's you this morning and you've never accepted that free gift of salvation found in Jesus, then maybe today's your day. Maybe today's your day to have hope in the midst of hopelessness, purpose in the midst of pain, a guide for your life that will never let you down, that will never fail. Because Jesus didn't just say these words. He didn't just say that we're called to be the light, he embodied it. He didn't just say these words, he lived them out. Because Jesus himself was sent down from heaven into the darkness. It would say in John chapter 1, verse 5, that the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it. So I can tell you, no matter what it is you're going through, I don't know the specific details, but I can tell you that it will not overcome God. That Jesus was sent down into our darkness and experienced all the pain and hurt and problems that you and I go through, and yet he never sinned. He loved people perfectly. He shined brightly. He gave us an example of how we're called to live. And yet, despite not deserving it, he gave up his life on a cross, a day of total darkness. And yet, that's when light was just coming into the world, right? On the day which was darkest, on the day that Jesus gave his life for you and for me, God was up to something. God was bringing the darkest day and bringing light into the world, into lives of people who are far from him, because now we can put our faith in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus and be restored. Our lives can be transformed. And so if that's a reminder to you, if you are a follower of Jesus, then go out and shine your light. Keep on shining. Shine bright and point people to the God that has impacted your life. And if you don't know that light, If you're ready to accept that free gift of salvation, if you're ready to have a hope that will never fail, I want you to pray these words in a minute as we all pray them together, and your life is going to be transformed, and you will be sent out to shine your light. So keep on shining. Let's pray. God, you are so good. Thank you for not leaving us in the darkness, but coming down into it and showing us how to live and love. God, may we day by day shine more and more brightly. May we with our lives speak the truth of who you are. And maybe with our words, may we reveal the relationship that we have with you. God, I pray over those of us who know Jesus in this room that we will set out of this place shining brightly, that we will impact and shape the people around us for you. God, I know you're working, and if there's somebody in this room who's ready to accept that gift, that they would say these words as we all say them together. Dear God, I'm a sinner. I need a Savior. Save me. Forgive me. In faith, I declare, Jesus is Lord. Fill me with your Spirit and help me to follow you and shine my light. And if you said those words, those aren't magical words, but they reveal a heart that is turned, that is ready to accept the hope, the salvation found in Jesus. And so if you said those words for the first time, we want to know and celebrate with you. You have gone from death to life, and you've been invited into a mission of hope and of joy and the fullest life found in Jesus. And so if you would be so bold on the count of 3 to slip your hand in the air, we'd love to partner with you and give you a book as you take your first steps of journey in your faith. So on the count of 3, raise your hand if you said that for the first time. 1, 2, 3. Amen. We can celebrate with them if you want to clap. God, you are so good. And we thank you for the work that you're doing in our lives, God, for the work that you're doing in the lives of the people around us, drawing them to yourself. God, that we would be transformed so much, that we would be so close to you, that it couldn't help but seep over into our other relationships. Holy Spirit, on this day of Pentecost, work in us and through us, light us up to be lights that shine even brighter than the stars of the sky. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much for listening to the message today. I'm Matt Wolf, the lead pastor at Arise Church Denver, and we're all about helping people follow Jesus, and we want to help you follow Jesus. Because of that, if you're newish, even if you're just checking us out online, go down below in the description and fill out that form at arisedenver.com/new. And if this message has impacted you at all, please go to arisedenver.com/give so that you can give back and help more people find out the message of Jesus Christ.